Hi guys, let's go to pattern focus to find the next pattern. Next one is this one called Zap-Free. Have I done this one before? I might have. I'm gonna have to check. If I've done it before, I will call this Zap-Free Revisited or something. So I need to write that down. Where's my little scrap piece of paper I write things down on? Note, Zap-Free. That's not going to help. How about this? That is full. My scrap pages are all full of notes already. There we go. Zap-Free. I may have just done Zap and not Zap-Free. That's possible. I'm assuming Zap-Free means because we're just kind of doing it free form. So Zap is pretty simple. You do a dot, and you can do 5 just random dots. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, with one in the middle, and then make a zigzag connecting these outer dots to the middle. Zigzag, zigzag, right? And then you echo that, or aura it, however you want to say it. I guess technically it's an echo because it all comes together in a point there. And then it looks like you randomly then use the end of these in another 1, 2, 3, 4 as the middle, and just keep adding your zigs and your zags until you've filled up what you want. And see, in the sample they've aura'd in various ways. It's really cool. Okay, so we're going to zigzag. I'm going to turn on my light. I'm going to zoom in a little bit so you don't see all of my little places where I've attached the paper to the page. Do I want to use that string in some manner? I don't know. So let's give ourselves a border. I may not use a hard border. And I'm going to write that string in, but I might not use it. We'll see what happens. Maybe organically on one side I will use this pattern in one way, and then on the other side maybe I'll use the pattern the other way. I don't really know what I'm going to do yet. So I'm just going to start here. 2, 3, 4, 5. Make a zigzag. Make a zigzag. Make a zigzag. And make a zigzag. Doesn't matter really how they go, where they end up. And then from the middle, that. Like that. Right? That's the first one. Let's use that one as the middle. 2, 3, 4, 5. You know what? I'm just going to put dots and decide how they're going to just go together. Maybe one out here. I'm just putting random dots. No pattern. And then I'm just going to zigzag some things. since they're zigzag free, I can make them whatever shape I want, right? I'm just making random zigzags wherever. And then I'm just going to aura stuff wherever. Well, that didn't go as planned. It's alright. Doesn't have to. So in my another art group, I made a post because people were bashing themselves again about their artwork, and that really drives me crazy. It's one of my pet peeves, I think. It's one thing to be less satisfied with an outcome than you had anticipated. It's another thing to really beat yourself up. And I know I've said it before, but I'm going to say it again. You know, the point of doing the art is not necessarily the finished product. The finished product is great. And most of the time, you know, your finished product is exactly what it's meant to be. Actually, all the time your finished product's exactly what it's meant to be. But sometimes it matches what you had in your head, and sometimes it doesn't. And you know, when it doesn't match your perceived expectation, it doesn't mean that you're a failure. It doesn't mean that you're not a good artist. All it means is that it doesn't match your expectation you had in your head. That's all it means. But if you had joy in your journey, then that's important. The group that I posted this in is one of the art Sherpa groups that, you know, follows people following her tutorials, and then they beat themselves up because it doesn't look just like her painting. Well, you know, she's a professional artist who has probably painted thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of paintings in her career. You know, she's painting, I'm sure, because she has to paint a like sample painting before she teaches the painting. And so each painting that she does, she probably paints at least twice. for her channel, and she posts 3 or 4 times a week. So I'm hazarding a guess that in a week she paints 8 to 10 paintings a week. Minimum. Not counting sketches or other art-related stuff she does. And not counting anything she might do in her personal art journey. This is just for her teaching channel. You know, if you did 8 to 10 paintings a week, you'd get better at it too. You know? And these people, the one that really got to me yesterday was said, "This is my 9th painting. I should be better by now." Really? You know, if I was picking up a musical instrument, you know, I don't play any musical instrument, but if I picked up a flute, for example, and I had some rudimentary lessons on how to make a sound using the flute, and if I knew how to read music, which I don't, but if I did, really, do I really think I could play in the symphony the 9th time I ever picked up the instrument? No. No. That's ridiculous. It drives me crazy. But, you know, my thought, my response was, but it looks, I can tell that it is that tutorial. You know, whether it was the girl on the beach or the mermaid or, you know, the cloudy day, any of the paintings that have been done recently, if I can tell that that's what you were doing Cinnamon's tutorial, then I think you've done a good job. Because if I picked up the flute on my 1st or 10th attempt, you know, there's a high probability that recognizing the tune I was trying to play might not happen. Much less that it was a good tune. But just even recognizing the tune, you know, Mary Had a Little Lamb or Twinkle Twinkle Little Star, yeah, might not happen. And if you try to pick up a flute and you're trying to do, you know, I don't know what kind of songs are done on flute. I don't know. You know, one of those really cool spa lounge, you know, songs that you hear at in the spa. There's always a lot of flute playing in the songs I hear when I go to the massage. These relaxing things. There is no freaking way that on my 1st attempt or my 5th attempt or my 9th attempt that you would even recognize what the tune's supposed to be. And these people have a piece of art at the end that is recognizable. You can tell that they were trying to do the beach scene. I think that's awesome. And you got to stop beating yourself up for these things, really. So, that's my take on it. It's my pet peeve. It really is. I'm just going to sign this. I have no idea exactly, what was that called? Zap-Free. My guess is that I've done Zap before, but I've done Zap in a grid instead of free form. I have this feeling that's what happened. So I'm going to erase my, I only put a border because I just didn't want to get too close to the edge. And I put that string that I didn't even come close to using. That's okay. I'm just going to erase those out. I am going to fill in some of this negative space in black. The ones that there's that doesn't touch. So, but just the ones that are like solid, just because I feel like it needs a little contrast. And then maybe do a little shading, and then I'll be done. But yeah, you know, when you're on your art journey, the journey is the joy. The finished product is not the joy. The finished product is not going to make you happy. You might be pleased with yourself, but the product itself is not what's making you happy. What's making you happy is that you had joy in the journey. And so you need to just enjoy the moment. Whether it's doing Zentangles, or whether it's painting, or whether it's cooking, or any other creative pursuit that you do, you need to enjoy the journey and not concentrate so much on the final product, and certainly don't concentrate on comparing your final product with someone else's final product, because you know what? You do not have the same practice or skill set as somebody else. And it goes the other way too. If you are accomplished in something, whatever you do, do not tell people, oh, well, you could have done it like this. You could have done it like that. Unless they ask you. Because, you know, if they just say, what do you think about this? Then you say, wow, that's awesome. You did a great job. How do you feel about it? You know, obviously they're showing it to you because they are proud. Even if they're questioning whether it's good or not, they're still proud. Because if they weren't proud of it, if they really honestly, truly thought it was trash, they wouldn't share it with you. They're proud of what they did, but they know that they're not as good as someone else. And that's where you lose your joy, is when you start comparing to others. The only one you should compare yourself to is yourself. You know, if you are doing your art, you're doing your tangles, you're doing other creative pursuits, and if you date those, and then you look back on them and see where you've been and how your skills have progressed, that is good comparison. That's like saying, yeah, look at how far I've come, and you can be proud of it. But comparing yourself to someone who has had years and years of experience, especially professional artist who went to art school, has a degree, has had numerous practices in multiple disciplines, you know, acrylics and oils and drawing, and yeah, you can't compare yourself to that unless you've gone through those same number of hours. And you know that beginner painters have not done that, because, I mean, that's why they're there. They're watching tutorials for a reason. They're not professional artists. Professional artists are not watching YouTube tutorials to find out how to paint. They already know that skill. So don't compare yourself to the teacher. Compare yourself to yourself. Because you can't even compare yourself to other students, because, you know, although I am not a super accomplished acrylic painter, I can paint in acrylics, and I've done so, and you've seen the couple of pieces that I did recently. I don't consider myself a professional artist by any stretch of the imagination. However, because I draw every day, and even though I'm not drawing representational stuff with Zentangle, I am doing a lot of practice of drawing, and that in and of itself gives me muscle memory and control over my pen, which is also the same as having control over my paintbrush. And I can translate the practice that I do with my pen into practice that I would do with other art forms, with drawing, you know, with pencil, with doing sketches, with painting. So it's, you know, it's a cumulative skill. So I wouldn't think that somebody who has never picked up a paintbrush should compare their work with mine, even though I've not done this particular tutorial before. I have painted before, and I may have some skills that that person doesn't have. Doesn't mean that they can't learn those skills. Just means that you know, they haven't yet found that area that they've practiced in. For example, I would not want to share with you my attempts at faces. They're interesting, to say the least. I think I want dark in there. I can draw a face that looks like a face. I mean, it's recognizable as a face, but it may not, proportions may not be right, and I may struggle. And I certainly, they would look more cartoony than portrait-like. Put it that way. I mean, I can make a face, but it will look more cartoony. And, you know, if I'm going for cartoon, then it'll be a perfect face. If I'm going for a realistic portrait, that's not a skill I have yet. But it doesn't mean I can't get the skill. It just means I don't practice it. I don't sit down and look at and draw, you know, dozens and dozens of eyes, or dozens and dozens of lips, or dozens and dozens of hands. I mean, artists do hand studies. They'll spend hours drawing just fingers. And, you know, what does a thumb look like? What does a finger look like? What's a fingernail look like? They will dissect, and they're like doctors with studying anatomy. They're awesome, but it's a lot of work. And I will totally 100% admit, I have not put in the work to make a really good portrait. I just haven't. But I know enough to be able to make a decent caricature sketch, or throw a face into my art journal that's not meant to be a portrait. I can do a face. You know what I mean? But I can't beat myself up over the fact that, you know, if the first time I tried, some of these people are trying to paint portraits. I haven't even tried the big art quest with faces, or tried doing the tutorials that have the girls in them, besides doing silhouette figures. I've done the silhouette figures, but I've stayed away from the ones that have faces because I just don't feel confident in my skill set yet. And you know, so your expectation also is part of, you know, you shouldn't expect to be able to paint the Mona Lisa when you barely can draw a face. You know what I mean? Anyway, but then you beat yourself up over it instead of just saying, yeah, this one wasn't that good, but that's because I'm learning, and I think I did pretty good considering my skill set. So you always have to consider your skill set. This was kind of an interesting, fun, just random sort of tangle. I'm not 100% sure I would call it a Zentangle pattern. It's a pattern, and it's fun. But whatever. It came out really cool. I like the dimension and the movement in it. I'm not sure I would use it as a filler, but I might use it around the edge of something. If I had a pattern, like a focal pattern, and I needed something around the outside, I might use it. Interesting. So you guys have a really great day. I've babbled on long enough. I'm sure you are all going, oh my gosh, now what she's talking about. But anyway, I just say what comes to mind. Who knows? You guys have a really great day. Do something nice for somebody today so that you can make the world a better place around you. And I will see you tomorrow, okay? Bye-bye.